Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Now, if you were online at all this weekend, you saw all of the headlines being generated by the D23 Expo out of Anaheim, California, which is Disney's version of Comic-Con. And they hold it every other year, and this was the third time, and I think it's safe to say the third time was the charm. They finally got it right. Not only did Friday and Saturday sell out, but they truly did dominate every news outlet, and deservedly so. I thought they had some great headlines coming out. They had some really good announcements and reveals on Friday for animation with Pixar and Disney Animation, and then again on Saturday for their live-action films. And the biggest headline that came out of the entire convention was that Angelina Jolie showed up to introduce Maleficent, the film which comes out for 4th of July 2014, and they showed some footage, and she really was like the Johnny Depp slash Jack Sparrow of this year's convention, which was very nice, and you know that project's going to be very big for them next year. But, and while I'm going to be reporting all this week on the announcements that were made and giving my in-depth analysis, I wanted to take this morning to talk about the biggest non-event to come out of the convention, and that was the complete lack of Star Wars news. Now, the reason this was such a big deal, not only because people were disappointed, but because everyone, including myself, had reported on the rumors that there was going to be a huge Star Wars announcement. So, of course, everyone was very excited for that Saturday panel. But what happened was both fascinating and hilarious. So, Alan Horn opens the panel, and he is the new head of the Disney film division. He took over from Ross Ritchie, who was fired over the whole John Carter debacle. And they open up, what do you know, with their Lucasfilm section. So everybody's all excited, and they're like, this is it! And Alan Horn talks about how there's a new movie coming out in 2015, and J.J. Abrams is going to direct it, stuff that everybody already knows. And then he says, I regret to tell you that at this time, I can't reveal anything else. And I think he thought everyone would just be like, oh, okay, we'll patiently be excited and wait for you to tell us. But instead, he got booed. And I think that's the hilarious part and the fascinating part, because that doesn't happen at Disney events. Disney is supposed to be the happiest place on earth, and booing does not fit with that. But, you know, to some degree, I think Disney asked for this, in more ways than one. Obviously, they asked for it by not having a reveal. Once they heard the rumors, even if the rumors were unfounded and false, I think they had an obligation to come up with something to reveal. Artwork, have J.J. Abrams show up, have maybe one of the original cast members show up, somebody, have a Yoda puppet, I don't know. Something should have come up just to satisfy what was obviously a very high audience demand. Now, also, the booing didn't turn ugly. This wasn't like vicious booing, which some Comic-Con events can get. So I think Disney should feel nice about that. But if they continue to be so mum and disappoint their fans, they could get the vicious booing. And that leads to the other element where I think Disney asked for this. And that is they asked for this by bringing in this type of fan that is okay with booing a company. And, you know, as everybody knows, Disney had a lot of fans already with their Princess collection, their animation. They were doing very well. But they really wanted, and this was the way the story was reported, they really wanted the male fan, the teenage fan. So they went and they bought Marvel and they bought Star Wars. Now, the reason I say it was reported that way is because you might have seen there was an article I saw this weekend about how, for instance, gaming has become almost 50% female in terms of audience. I think that these films like Marvel and Star Wars have a large female fan base as well. So I think it's really a misnomer to say this is they're bringing in the male demographic. They're just bringing in a different demographic. And I think a demographic that overlaps to some degree, because I am a huge Disney fan and I am a huge Marvel and Star Wars fan. I go to Comic-Con, I go to Disney World all the time. But I act differently at each place. But I think when Disney decided to meld the two and bring them together, they might be opening the doors to a different kind of experience. And so, because for instance, I wonder, once there's booing at one Disney event, will the booing travel to other Disney events? Let's say a stage show doesn't start on time. Will people boo? It's like, you know, it's like opening the doors, because what once seemed taboo suddenly seems okay. So I just, you know, Disney's really going to have to stay on their toes. I wonder what kind of meeting they're having this morning after that happened and seeing that headline being generated. Alan Horn booed at D23 Expo for lack of Star Wars news. It's really going to be a new experience for them. I think Disney is used to leading the news with their previous fan base, but I think that they've invited in a type of fan and a type of coverage that's very aggressive, very speculative, and has no problem telling the company when they're doing something really wrong from the fans. You know, people have been always happy to bring up when the animation's not good, but also, you know, you're seeing it a little bit in animation with their lack of, you know, hand-drawn animation as well. The fan base is becoming more vocal. So maybe it would have gotten to the Disney fan eventually, but it might be sped up by the fact they brought in that Star Wars and Marvel contingent. So, welcome to a brand new world, Disney. You wanted it, you got all of it. You can't just pick and choose when it comes to Star Wars and Marvel fans. So that's the first story of the day. The second story is that Now You See Me has become a sleeper phenomenon. The film was made for about $75 million, and it made a little over $100 million here in the U.S., but it's crossed the $100 million mark overseas as well, and it's on course to finish with about $275 million worldwide. That's just amazing. That is such a big gross, especially for that kind of film that was such a small film. And because of that, Lionsgate is prepping Now You See Me 2, or Lionsgate Summit is prepping Now You See Me 2. So there will be a sequel. Anyone who's seen the film knows that they do set it up for a potential sequel, and I think it's great. I really loved the movie. I thought it was really well done, as you might have seen in my review. I really liked Mark Ruffalo's work in the film, and Jesse Eisenberg. And Woody Harrelson really was a fun cast. I got the chance to interview them at the junket down in New Orleans. And so I think it's really exciting that to see a small film like this succeed and to be rewarded. And because it did so well, they might get a bigger budget for the sequel, which means we could get even bigger, better magic tricks. But part of the charm with the first one was that it did use conventional magic as well. But hopefully they can just make an even bigger, better picture for the second time around. And that's just very exciting news. And nice for Mark Ruffalo and Jesse Eisenberg. Nice for Mark Ruffalo to have a success outside of the Avengers. And very nice for Jesse Eisenberg to have a commercial success. I think The Social Network was successful to some degree, box office-wise, but that really got its cachet from its awards. But for Jesse Eisenberg to score at the box office is great news for him. It's great news actually for everybody in that cast. Not a cast of box office scorers, but together they are mighty. So those are the first two stories of the day. And it was a light news weekend because D23 dominated the headlines so much. And as I said, this whole week will be about D23. So I wanted to take the third section here to kind of answer a lot of you have been asking what happened to audience reviews. And I mentioned in the comments, I did answer that in the comments section, but I think a lot of people aren't seeing it. So I wanted to discuss it here. Basically, audience reviews have just, their time came and went. Unfortunately, this was a decision I want you to know I did not take lightly. It took me all summer to make it, and I very carefully was watching the numbers, the view counts on my reviews and the audience reviews, as well as the comment section. And there became it became a point where my reviews were doing better in terms of viewership, and audience reviews were not only doing poor in comparison to my reviews, but into all the videos on my site, they were the least popular. They underperformed significantly, and also they couldn't compete with other other movie reviews because, and I think this is for several reasons. First, the audience reviews, they have to get up at the latest point possible, and that makes them uncompetitive in terms of because the earlier a video goes up, the better it is. So because YouTube is very much a speed game. So the audience reviews were losing in that regard right there. Second of all, there were just so many complaints about them in the comment section. People felt that audiences were too forgiving of films. They had come to, I think, not trust the audience review help them decide whether or not to see a film. And also there were often complaints about, you didn't get enough people, and we would stand there for hours. I want you to know that. It takes a very long time. It takes all day Friday to make audience reviews. And it can be very taxing to stand there and to only walk away with 3 people, even though you've been there to cover 3 showings. And that's just all who wants to be on camera. Also, I have to tell you, while it used to be easy to get people to be on camera, less and less people wanted to be on camera. It was getting very difficult to get anyone to want to come, because as I've explained before, people don't like to be on camera. That is a myth that people want to be on film. They do not. People hate being on camera. And shows evolve. And on that note, I want you to know the audience participation factor is not going away. In fact, I think this is going to be something that opens it up more to you. Because a lot of you often write me and say you wish you could be on Beyond the Trailer, but you don't live in New York City. Well, that is no longer going to be a problem for you, because once a month, one of you will be a guest star on Beyond the Trailer. I'm going to do a monthly interview with one of a BTT viewer who is the most engaged and who I notice a lot in the comments section. It's going to be a joint decision based on a new tool that YouTube offers called, their audience. I can see who's the most engaged, and also just for myself from seeing who I know comments a lot, who I know is a regular contributor. And I think this is going to be very exciting because it's going to allow to get more international voices, more diversity on the show. Because I would love to talk to BTT viewers who are, because as Hollywood gets more global, I would love to, and I already know that BTT has a very global audience. I know a lot of you are from across the globe. It would be great to talk to you. Let's talk to people. I'm sure that I have a number of BTT viewers, I hope, in China. Let's talk to you guys about, the revolution that's going on over there and how you are starting to dominate the decisions that are made in Hollywood. So I think we're going to have some really interesting discussions come out of that. The first one will be debut at the end of this month, and it will be every month. And if it does well, maybe I might do more. But we're going to start out doing it monthly. So I'm very excited about this. I'm very happy that the audience perspective will not be lost on this channel. And I hope that you will keep an open mind. Everything changes. Everything evolves. And just know that I'm excited for this next chapter. I'm excited to get to talk to more of you. And I hope you're excited to potentially come on the show. So that's today's morning movie news. I hope you enjoyed it. Write down below what you would like to see maybe discussed tomorrow and any questions you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.